Wink TV, internettelevisie op zijn turnhouts.
Right, welcome to the Warande. I'm Staff Telkmans. I'm the General Director of this house since the end of the 90s. Welcome to Turnhout also. The smallest but the nicest place of Flanders, some say, or Belgium. Near to the border of Holland, and in that way I'm very pleased to have you here. I'm gonna make first, I have to say, the good as bad news. The good news is that the sun is shining. The bad news is that the sun is shining, not hot enough. It's a little bit cold here, because especially on this day they are working on the heating system of the whole building, and especially on the venue here and in the theater. It's cold, but it's okay. I'm going to warm you up with a small presentation of a PowerPoint presenting the Warande. Afterwards you can ask some questions if you want. I'll try to find out the good answer. Just make a translation of it. A cultuurhuis, a culture house. You could translate it as. We have a special reason for that you're going to find out during the presentation. So what I'm going to do is present you the mission of this house, the goal of this house, the organization structure, how we are organized, how we are managed. How we get on our budget and on our finances. And I give you also some user data, and at the end I try to find out the conclusion. That's what it's all about. And also photos. So the mission, we call ourselves Provinciaal Cultuurhuis de Warande. So the Provinciaal Cultuurhuis de Warande is a warm home for cultural experiences in all their diversity. Together with all our partner organizations, it's very important, I will tell you later. We offer a broad range of accessible and top quality programs. This gives everyone in our region a chance to get together and share cultural events. As you know, every word in the mission is important. So I read this for you. Our most important priority is to welcome new and vulnerable participants. We create an open and dynamic cultural climate, encouraging young region artists and challenging art lovers to experiment and try new things. This is the mission which we are working already about 40 years. And we actualize every 6 years this mission by pointing out, by focusing on our goals. It's a house, and a house has rooms, and during the whole long history we find out we have 4 rooms in this house, and every room has a function, and the whole house together is a building, and the whole region here is so you can find out the 4 rooms. I take the first one. It's what we called, and as in Flanders is well known as a cultural center. I know this in Holland has a completely different meaning as in Flanders. But we act as a cultural center. It's more what the theaters in Holland does. So we promote and we focus on the arts of every kind. And that's the difference. Theaters in Holland, I know they are playing theater and they are playing a musical and so on, but they do normally not exhibitions. They do no courses. They do no educational work. In Belgium, we have all this work under one building, and that's why we call our center a cultural center. So presenting theater, dance, installations, comedy, circus, literature, children's art, films, comic strips, performance and debates, everything is under this rooftop, and that's our first room. The second room, and that's quite also for Belgium and for Flanders a unique situation. We offer also a home for several different internal non-profit arts organizations. And this is especially because it's a small village, I must call city. Village is maybe too slow, but it's a small city where you can't spread out all these functions all over the city. It will cost a lot of money. So what we did understand is that if we do the coordination, we have a huge building here, and we put all the interesting initiatives here. We can also do a profit for the government and for ourselves. And so during our history, we organized more than 7 independent organizations. Let's say in English, it's a foundation, non-profit foundation. I think the term in Holland you call a stichting. And in Flanders we call the VZW, een vereniging zonder winstgevend doel. I think in Dutch it's a stichting. The first one is Move. It's a film festival. It started like a very small film festival. There was a teacher in religion who started it about 20 years ago. He teaches religion on technical students. He didn't like teaching, but he did like more presenting films, and it becomes a hobby of him. And after that, he becomes a professional, and we give him a space. There is some heat, there is some light, there is a telephone. The organization could use our cars. That cost not so many for us, but for a small starting organization, it costs a lot of money, and they started with less money, very few money, and I think it's always interesting the money you have, that you can spend it on your core business, and that's presenting films. And Move is now, after 20 years, and I'm very proud of that, the second biggest movie festival of Belgium, with also companies and organizations in other cities in Belgium. They started presenting films with a worldwide perspective, let's say the not commercial films made in the south, beautiful films, and as I already said, they have not only a festival, but they also present every week the premieres here in TURNHOUT of very international movies, which already has been shown in Berlin or in Cannes. And yeah, to be honest, we have in TURNHOUT mostly the premiere from whole Belgium, and just because of this organization, which works so professionally in our house. At the other hand, on that way, we don't have to cover itself a movie. We don't have to do this by ourselves. We let it do by this organization, and they have free entrance and free use of employees and so on. And they have also an office here, can use our computers and so on. Second organization on the same idea is an adult education and support organization. It's an organization based on a marketplace on work for free. If you do this for me, then I can Dynamo in English, and it's the second organization which is under this roof. The third organization is Kunst in Zicht, Art in Sight, you could translate it. It's an art educational program for children, but not only for children, especially also for teachers which are preparing their lessons, and they can have advice from Kunst in Zicht to how to mention and how to work, how to manage with art in schools. They are specialized with an own methodology in art education for children, And so they help schooling and they help the teachers training, and it's also it helped for us because some of the performances, exhibitions are also managed by them, so we can use their skills also for our organization. Then the Storm op Komst is a children's art festival, but not in the usual way. It works just around forms that are not so usual for children. For instance, plastic arts, architecture, food, music, and so on. Less on movie and theater, because there are other festivals. It's every 2 years there's a festival in spring. Archer is an architecture center, which is specialized not especially in private architecture, but more in the social part of the architecture, co-housing and all kind of these ideas. It's one of the youngest organizations in this place, but growing very fast because it's very hot architecture, especially the whole idea of co-housing and social housing in general. Then Strip Kids is at the middle of December. We have every 2 years we have a very big festival. Beside of Haarlem, it's the biggest festival of comic strips in the Low Countries. Strip Turnout is also the Flemish Center for comic strips. There is also a prize every 2 years, which will be announced by the Minister of Culture. And so in the middle of December, it's so far then we have I think it's the 20th edition of Strip Turnout. So that means there is a board where you can buy all kinds of comic strips, but there is also two very important expositions which we made by ourselves, and one, and we are very happy with it, is the central theme is Lucky Luke. You all know them, the guy with the Daltons after his feet. Huh? And yeah, I can imagine this will bring a lot of people to Turnhout. Normally we have about 10,000 people in a whole weekend that will come over to the whole building here and follow all this organization. There are also some lectures, strip artists can meet each other, and so on and so on. And the last, and that's the youngest company which we take under our roof, is KAAIPOT. KAAIPOT is not a tax shelter company, but it's an organization where younger children and youngest people can learn to make theater and dance, but on a very special way. We engaged a lot of professional teachers, and they not only teach theater and dance, but every year they make an own production, and as professional as possible. And yeah, they can use all the professional equipment here, all our experiences that we have by ourselves, and so on. There are more than 100 members, and some of these performers, they will also travel to abroad and in other cultural centers. So that was the second room of our cultural house. Maybe I can fill in also that every organization is autonomous, so they make their own decisions and their own management, and depending on their goals, they have their financial organization and support by the Flemish government, the provincial government, or the municipal government, and some like Arthur and also the Studenten Leisure, they also have European branches of the government. Then we are a cultural center. We have get rooms for partner organizations. The first thing is that we act like a rental venue. Just you can rent here, a theater you can rent here, an exposition room you can rent here, meeting rooms for congresses, but also for small meetings and so on. And we try to do this as professional as possible. That way we can get all kind of people from all social levels of the society in our house. And at the end it will be clear what's the real purpose of the whole thinking after this. And the last one, and maybe the most important, is this is a meeting place. What's important is that this building is guarded already 40 years, 24 hours on 24 hours. There's every day, every night, there's someone here. So it's free here, it's safe here, it's warm here. There's a cafeteria, you can read, you can meet people. It's neutral. It seems to be very, very simple, but a place, annual today, where it's free, where you can get in where you want, where you feel safe. I think that's for society very, very, very important. And we spend a lot of money on it, on this gardening, but it works, because on that way, every inhabitant from Turnhout or from the region, they know that, for instance, they have to go to the toilet, they can get here, and no one is asking why are you coming in. No, you can sit here in the entrance hall, and you can see what other things here are organized and so on. All these four rooms are important to support the whole building. It's always, all kind of ways is to get people here which are not specially coming for an art product, for a movie or for theater or for an exposition. No, by coming here and feeling welcome here, they probably will think, interesting, maybe I have to come back and follow one of these, a lot of organizations. In the summer we organize also a picnic here outside and so on. So we are organized in two organizations. Maybe it's a little bit technically, and we'll go a little bit further on this. At the one hand, we are a provincial organization. It's what we call the hardware. They paid and organized the whole maintaining and renting of the property, the managing the personnel, day-to-day the operations, utilities, safety, security, and hospitality concessions. There's a board there, the politicians are there in most of them, and there's also a representative from the city of Turnhout. The second organization is what we call is also a foundation for non-profit, and it's what we call the software. And the software, it's ACTUA is a shorter word for Activiteiten Turnhoutse Warande. Every contents of this house is organized by this foundation. So we have the hardware for, let's say, the hard goals of the management, and we have the software for the soft goals, and the soft goals is where it's all about organization of expositions, of music, of theater, of dance, and so on and so on and so on. The board of this second organization are also politicians as well as from Turnhout as from the province of Antwerp, but there are also some experts, cultural experts in, and also some members from the board from Turnhout itself. So we have also a coordination committee for the hardware, has to work on the software on the hardware. Let's say it's a daily management structure which comes every month together, and so that we can see everything works well. There's also an apart organization in Antwerp which we follow up the whole building. It's quite a big building with a lot of technical problems and investigation also and so on, but that's not important for this whole thing. Very important, and I think this is a little bit strange, maybe also for Holland. We are one of the unique structures in Belgium and Flanders where we could find a good balance between the local government, let's say in this case Turnhout, stad Turnhout, city of Turnhout, the provincial government, province of Antwerp, and the Flemish government. And I think a big organization like this one, with more than 100 people working here, yeah, they need the money and the support of all these three levels. I know in Belgium there's a lot of complaint about that because they want to see that only one level, political level, is responsible for this infrastructure. We don't believe that. I think if this will work, you have to have the support from the three levels. Yeah, there's a legal structure with all kinds of covenant because every 6 years we have to make up our mind and see what works, what works not, with a lot of decrees or some covenants and so on. You can read this if someone has wants to have this for a paper or something like that. I can give you the slides from this PowerPoint. But maybe interesting is the user, this data. So start as a reference from 2012. So in 2012 we have a total of 340 podium activities, which is quite a lot, so nearly one performance a day. And if you included the films which played in a professional theater at the other side of the city, it's about 747 performances. We do a lot of educational work with schools, and so we present about 77 school performances from children to youngsters. Renting about 63 rentings a year from the concert hall and the theater. So together we have about 480 podium activities, and it's a huge amount. It's unbelievable, but it's true. We have 6,383 rentals a year. We count every rental, even internal meetings and so on. But as you can imagine, with the Dynamo, the education organization, every day during the school they have 10 and 15 until 15 classes a day. So that counts very fast. And I think that's huge. I didn't tell you so much about the exhibitions. This has something to do with the rebuilding. We rebuilt the whole building on this site the last 2 years, and the new exhibition rooms are just opened since the beginning of January. But in normal times we have about 12 exhibitions. Unfortunately now the 2 halls are just closed because we are preparing the big expo for the comic strip exposition in the middle of December. But that's coming up very fast, and exhibitions will be one of our core business the next years. So totally organized by ourselves, podium activities. We have about 72 people coming in, which buy effectively a ticket. But at the end, we reached, I think, with all the festivals together, with all the activities together in the rental and so on, we have about, we say, between 200 and 250,000 people a year. Our communication is as simple as it is. We have some brochures and flyers, but it diminished very fast, as you know. But we work all on our website and the social media. So you can follow us on the www.warande.be. And it's a very interactive website where you can see some show extract from performances, where you can talk with us, where you can give your reaction, where you can follow all our partner organizations and so on. It's and I think it works very well. But we still work on paper also, because we also have an older audience, which is not always well known with the social media. Okay, I will end with an end. So I think, and that's what we are dreaming about. Every resident of the region should have at least once in his life an irresistible reason to visit the Warande. So that means they don't have to come, but if they have the feeling, oh, I have to see that, maybe that's interesting, I think that's already very important. If they then decided to come, I think it's also good for us. But this feeling is what we try to reach, and hope that they practice their minds. So that's where's the Warande all about. I think there are some questions, and I think also we can go further on the issue of today, but
Yeah.
I stop.
Well, thank you very much for coming, because we asked the students to already send us questions beforehand, because they knew that you would also be here. And some of the questions were about your organization. What kind of organization is it? What kind of activities do you do? Well, I think those questions we don't have to ask anymore, because I think that's pretty clear from your presentation. I can imagine there are some questions regarding the connection between the festival and the Warande that will take place next year, because I also saw in the questions, there were some questions about it. Looking at the setup, maybe it's good to do that right now, to ask those questions now, and then we can immediately go further with Chef, with the second part of the presentation, and then indeed ask the questions to all the people being here. Is that okay to start with the questions about the festival and Warande first? So I would like to do is stand up. Maybe it's a bit complicated to go well with the microphone to come towards you, so please stand up and ask the question loud and clear. And I knew there were groups who had questions for the Warande. So who would like to start? There were, for sure. Maybe you don't remember, but there were questions for the Warande. Who wants to ask a question?
First question of all, you have done decoration here in KAAIPOT, but what is in it for the Warande itself, and what is in it for you? What is the meaning for cooperation?
Yeah, the reason for cooperation is at the one hand, we can have very easy come in with specialized organizations which we can't do by ourselves, like movie and like educational work for children and like architecture and so on. So that's what we receive for free from these organizations. From here to them is that we have a lot of experience. We have also a lot of a network. We have a huge building. We have a very good employees, and we can support them also by communication, especially for the beginning of these very young organizations, as I told you already, by the teacher of religion. It's very important to give them this support, and when they are growing growing fast and up, it's also possible that they get out of the organization. We already have 2 organizations which started here, but which are not in our network anymore. One is a professional theater making with mental disease children. It's called Stad. They have now their own theater at the other side of the city of the Warande. And there's also a children's theater which also starts here in this partnership, but which also intended to go completely autonomous. But we still keep in touch with them, and most of the premieres of these 2 companies are happening here. So there is also I grow in and I grow out.
Other questions? Yeah.
Hi. I was wondering, we just heard that the festival will be outside, but is there still this possibility that there will be more, that you'll work more together with what you offer here? Like for example, the exhibitions, that it will become part of the festival?
Yeah.
for example?
So I think now you're talking about the KAAIPOT festival which is coming over.
Also.
First, we have to say that the area around the building is managed by the city of Turnhout, especially by Erik over there. He's the manager of the area. And yeah, okay. Also, yes. Okay. So yes, there are some possibilities to cooperate. First, for the festival, we already try to do this, but we have to be clear about the financial and organization and the end responsibility of the whole thing. But there are some possibilities. It's always the same. It's counting. It's 1 + 1 is not 2, but can be 3 if you count very well and if you can coordinate and make the organization performant. Then you can go to 3. And I think that's where we're always looking for. But each party has to take its own responsibilities. And I think a grow has to go slow, not too fast. You have to be very clear what the end goal is. And in that way, I'm pleased with the proposal of Tom to have the festival here. And we already had one small edition about 2 years ago. I suppose. I remember. Yeah, there was on the stage. Okay, but maybe we can go to another goal because we also have a lot of concerts here in the concert hall. I didn't tell you. So we have a theater with 747 places. That's a big theater in the normal way of looking at theater, like in the stad. But on the other hand, we have a concert hall which is made like a kind of television studio where we can have rock and pop and jazz concerts for 800 people standing. And so in that way we have also a very important music programmation, and probably there are some things we can do together in the future. I think already now the organization has contact with our programmer for music for seeing what's coming here, what's coming during the season. Because maybe that's interesting. We are working, especially in the winter and in the autumn and in spring. We are not working in the summer because you can't go 24 hours a day. People still have to have some rest, and in that way the summer is open in Turnhout, and there's a lot of work to do. And that way, this kind of festivals coming over to this area is very, very welcome. More questions?
Okay, I think that was a very important question, of course. Why does Warande want to be involved? I'm not sure if you can stay, Mr. Veldmans, but I think it's maybe good now to listen to Chef and to introduce the other people as well later for the second part of the press conference. So I don't know if you can stay, but if there are questions popping up regarding the Warande, you can also add them later. Yeah, Sarah? Okay, yeah.
Would you be willing to organize additional events if it's going on outside? Then I know that you're not doing much in summer, but would you think of doing it maybe to attract more visitors inside?
I think that we can think about it, but first of all, in the summer, I have to be very clear about our employees. So they have to find their hours has to be cut and so on. Also the money. So in that way, it has to go a long way. But there are also possibilities. For instance, during the season, we also work together with a wood festival, which takes place in Pasen. What is the name in English? Easter, yeah. Okay. And yeah, therefore, because we already cooperate with them for more than 8 years, there we do extra efforts. They can use the entrance hall. They organize a boards with where you can sell CDs and LPs and so on. So I think this can it's everything of and everything what's creative we will think about. But there's on the other hand also the realistic mind of managing your employees and money and sometimes also reparations of the building and so on. And I remember the date of the festival is was at the beginning of September, I suppose. I told us this meeting, or at the end of August, yeah. But it will work, but it will take time. Yeah.
So the second part of the presentation about ACTUA. Maybe first a little bit of history. We started in 2010 with a one-day festival on Saturday. Year afterwards we had 2 days festival, and then in 2012, 2013 we had a 3-day festival. With on Friday we always had rockabilly and an Elvis repertoire. Saturday was mainstream pop and rock, and on Sunday the last 2 years we had some, let's say, traditional Flemish music. In 2014 we will move to the Warande, and we will again have a 2-day festival. This is the road we saw it earlier. Grass, pavement, the exits of the parking with the glass building there. People approach here from the city center. I would like to focus on the functions needed on the Warande Square, the festival. Of course, we need an entrance and an exit. But mainly, we also need a perimeter, which can be created by using fences, because we charge an entrance fee this year, so we have to create that fence. Of course, the surface inside of that fence is determined by functions on the square, and also by the people we want on the square, or we will have on the square. Last years we had 4,000 people on Friday and on Saturday. I also mentioned that there's a maximum of 3 persons per square meter, so you should take that into account when you set that fence on the square. Of course, we need an information desk, token sale points, drink stands. We take 1 meter counter per 200 persons or visitors at the festival. Food stands, which have to be visible, of course. First aid and ambulance is also needed. Toilets, we can use toilets from Culture House Warande. It's not. You can also provide toilets on the square, but it's easy to use them from the Culture House. We also need a back office for the organization. Can be placed in the Culture House Warande. Can also be on the square. Other function, of course, VIP zone. Also with this, it can be in Culture House Warande. It can be on the square. We need a zone close to the stage, so people can have an exclusive site on the stage, VIP people. We need a corner for merchandise. The stage we used last year, 12 meters wide, 6 meters depth. Backstage can be organized in the Culture House Warande. And emergency exits. Now, I made some guidelines for the toilets, because there are no formal regulations on that, but you have guidelines on that. So I stated here 3,000 visitors from those guidelines. You need 20 toilets 20 urinals. 4,000 people, that makes 27 toilets, 24 urinals. When we go to 5,000 people, normally we have 4, but if we go to 5,000 people, we need 34 toilets and 32 urinals. Also, emergency exits, no formal regulations there, but also guidelines. Maximum of 3 persons per square meter. And this is important. Minimal independent emergency exits, and we take the calculation, the square root of the terrain surface divided by 15, and then we have the number of, or the total width of emergency exits is the numbers of visitors multiplied by 0.002, and that's in width in meters. So maybe a bit technical, but they're simple equations. So that's then we have the functions needed. That's all you have to provide on the terrain. Some functions we can use across the house, and some guidelines for the toilets and the emergency exits. So very briefly, that's what we need on the terrain. That's what you have to take into account when you make the plan for the terrain. Questions? Yes.
How many toilets does this building have?
This building, I don't know it by heart. We can visit them when we go back downstairs. I think we have 5 or 6 toilets, male and female. So 5 male and 8 female, and then maybe 8 urinals for men.
Do you think it's really smart to use it? If you have a lot of drunk people outside going inside to use the toilet?
We had a festival here 2 years ago, which was a bit smaller. We used them then, and that was no problem.
Can we use the lockers of the culture house?
We can use the lockers. Yes.
The facilities like the stage, is that yours, or do you need to rent that?
We need to rent them. Yes.
Okay.
Can you tell us once more how big the area outside was?
The area is, let's say, 80 meters
80.
long and 45 meters wide.
80 or 18?
80.
How many people do you usually have working?
During the weekend last year, we had about 100 people working for us for 3 days. So 100 shifts working. And the work was done by, let's say, 30, 40 people.
Are those volunteers?
Most of them are volunteers. Yes.
For your suppliers, do you have certain suppliers that are that you have a contract with, for instance, for the technical departments or for the stage or for fences?
We try to have the same suppliers every year.
Can we get a list of suppliers?
We can give you a list.
Maybe it's not a question, but is there any budget?
The budget was stated in the assignment, I think. It's 45,000 euros.
On the same question as I asked the other guy, I'm not sure of his name, but are you open for cooperation with them, like with not only the location but also what they have to offer? If, for example, their exhibition, like I said, or the shows, I don't know, can be introduced in the festival, or?
They can surely be introduced in the festival, yes.
Okay.
We're thinking about doing something next year which is besides the KAAIPOT festival, also in cooperation with the Warande. So, can be done.
For the VIP area, if you decide to use one of the rooms in here, would that be a rental cost, or would they allow you to use it?
I hope it's not a rental cost. So the toilets and backstage we can use freely now. maybe it could be if we use more of the building that we have to pay rental costs.
What are, or how is your relationship or your contacts with the municipality?
With?
Municipality, the big turnout.
Now we have a very good relationship with the City Council of Turnhout.
So are they
It was
open
a bit
for,
difficult in the past, but now everything is open.
but they are easy with permits and
Well, of course they have their condition, and we have to follow some rules they oblige us, but we will have time for it, no doubt.
May I quickly interrupt, because I don't know if you have finished your presentation?
I have finished
Okay.
my presentation.
Maybe it's good to also introduce the other people, and maybe they can even come forward. Maybe we have to put some tables here, because I would like to introduce you to some people. Maybe you also have questions to them. Maybe we can even alternate to ask some questions to Chef and also to the other people. So I would like to introduce on my left side, that's one of the aldermen of Turnhout, responsible for events. This is Mr. Luc de Bolte. He replaces the mayor today, but he knows everything about events, so I guess he can also ask the questions you had for the municipality. And next to him, I also mentioned him last week in my lecture, it's Erik Adriaansen, and he works at the Department of Events. So he's even practically involved in this. And then I think it's also good to introduce to you David Hamel. He's from the fan club Elvis Menace, so he replaces the chairman, and I know you also had some questions for him. So maybe, gentlemen, it's good that I put some tables here. You can sit after them. Yeah, that's maybe more convenient. And well, of course, you can also still ask questions to Chef de Kinderen, and also to Mr. Peltmans of the Cultuurhuis if there's any more questions. So maybe we can, for a moment, put the tables here, and then we make it a real press conference. Yeah. So please continue.
What have been the negative sides, like in the past? Was there something with noise, for example, or garbage? How did you handle that? I don't know if you could ask.
Yeah, good. There were no significant problems in the past. We had one remark, I think, last year about garbage that was left on the street, but I think we managed that quite well with the city. We also have agreements with the city that we can use dustbins and containers, and we hope that the city will clean up the train for us on Sunday.
Is it allowed to drink and eat your own consumptions at the terrain?
It's not allowed. No.
It's not allowed, okay. So it will be checked at the entrance?
We will check that at the entrance, yes.
Okay.
I have a question about the VIP area. What is the profile of your VIP guests? Actually, who will be included? Your sponsors, partners?
It's mostly sponsors and partners, yes, who we have to do publicity for them, and they can have network events at the KAAIPOT festival. And so the VIP area is, for us, is very important, because that's our way to make that local companies can be involved with the festival.
Who or what do you see as competitors in Turnhout?
Competitors are also small and medium-sized festivals. in the area. But actually, most of the festivals in the area are very locally based festivals in small villages. So I think we as KAAIPOT are one of the, maybe not the largest of course, but we're a larger player in the area.
Do you kind of work together and that you don't have an overlap of the events?
We did not yet work together, but maybe that's a good idea. So festivals to work together.
I have a question for you about the fan club. I know that they want to get rid of Sundays, and Sundays is when you have the Schlager. But do you think it would ruin the whole atmosphere if you had it like a one band of Schlager and one band of rockabilly playing on the Saturday? Would you think that it should be removed? Well, actually, you can answer as well. Do you think it should be completely gotten rid of, or if it should be combined? And do you think it's okay if it's combined, or if it gets rid of the whole atmosphere?
Of course, we are not part of the organization, so we don't decide who's playing on what day. If the organization says we put an act like an Elvis tribute band, and after that it's a Schlager band, that's up to them. But I think the concept like it is now, like one kind of genre each day, attracts a specific kind of audience, and I think you have more interest for one audience who is interested in the genre that's playing all day. And for example, if you have like rockabilly fans and they are here and they have to wait until their band is playing while a Schlager band is playing, I guess they are not so interested, and that's not so good for the atmosphere that one half of the audience is not interested in who is playing. That's not good for the fans that are listening to their band, and it's not good for the band that they see in the audience that only half of them is interested in the thing that you're doing on stage. So I guess the concept of one genre on one day is the best thing.
We had some questions for the city, because the city is also here, and I know there are some questions for the municipality, people working there. So, who wants to ask them a question?
Do you promote the festival? Like it's been part of terms of city marketing?
Question for?
We do the promotion of all festivals. We have a paper to distribute in all the town every month, and in the center of it there is we have a special attachment with all the festivals, with all the things there are to do in that month. So for July and August, it's end of June that it's distributed.
We are also a member of, it's called an organization of whole Flanders, it's called ACTUA, and they want to support you in making things like several things, but also to make the Kai Festival known in whole Flanders.
What is the local community? How do they look at the festival that is going to be here more in the city center than it was at the border of the city center? Because now more people will music, etc. So how do they think about it? Or did you thought about it?
I think first of all it depends from the program that you give, but there is a potential not only for the town here itself with 32,000 inhabitants, but also the surrounding villages.
The security of the festival, is it provided by the government, or do you have to rent it yourself?
We have to rent it ourselves. It's private. We have also cooperation with the city police, of course. They will be present at the festival, but the security itself on the terrain is private. We have to rent it.
Are the local pubs and restaurants also involved in the festival?
They're not directly involved. Not the pubs. We have agreements with restaurants where we can dinner with artists, and we have agreements with hotels. So we have arrangements which can be made that you can stay the night at the hotel, and that in the same price you have a ticket for the festival.
I know which is important to answer this question, but how far in advance can we build up the festival? Is that a week? Is that a day? And how long can we take to build? Or
Last year that was a week. I think this year it will be 1 or 2 days. So it will be very shortly that we have to do everything.
When you build up the festival, it's important to think about the security. Once you start building up, you have to put there some security because overnight, otherwise, the day after there's nothing left, or everything is.
So the fences and the stage we build up 1 week in advance, because no one will steal the stage. But light and music we just put there the day before.
For the Elvis fan club, what is your what is your contribution to the festival?
The KAAIPOT organization contacted us 2 years ago to ask if we can contribute with some kind of act because they already had the idea to do a rockabilly themed evening. And since we are also located in Turnhout, we are quite known of being here located. So first year we delivered an act, and last year we delivered an act, and it seems to be that we're going to deliver an act for the next festival. So they have a team in their mind, and it was linked to Elvis, and it seemed to be an obvious step to contact us to ask what's interesting. Because one thing that I would like to say is that if you talk about an Elvis act, some people are very fast in thinking about putting impersonators on stage, people dressed up like Elvis. That's a genre that exists, but that's something that we don't do. So we try to bring Elvis music in an original way, but far away from people who think that they are Elvis and dress up like Elvis. So that's a very different approach to the Elvis music. And I'm glad that KAAIPOT is working with a good approach, in my opinion.
You're welcome.
Is it like comparable to that song they made a few years ago about Umbrella from Rihanna, the new version, like that way? I don't know if you know it, but
yeah, I know what you mean. That was like a German group, the Baseballs. What they did was taking contemporary songs and giving it a style as if it was made in the 50s or 60s. But what we do is bringing exactly the songs that Elvis did in the way that Elvis did. For another concept, we are going to have Christmas concerts during Christmas time, I think. And that will be a concept that we are testing out in some way, that we are going to use modern Christmas songs and thinking about how would Elvis perform those songs. So in a way it's like what you're asking.
Bink TV. Internettelevisie op zijn turnouts. Just Bink it. Just blink it.